It's the dog days of summer. Welcome to the focus group.
They're all business, except when they're not. It's the focus group with Tim Bennett and John Nash.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the focus group. Tim Bennett here, as always, with my good friend and co-host, Mr. John Nash. We are the focus group in our 14th year, or something like that. And here every Wednesday at 1 p.m. East through Facebook, and of course through our live stream at YouTube. And you can find all of our media at focusgroupradio.com, which includes this video cast, I guess is what they call them now, as well as all of our podcast, which is TFG Unbuttoned, and the audio version of this show, which is released on Saturdays. And there's quite an archive there, so everything you need to find is located at focusgroupradio.com, along with our sponsors are there as well. And thanks to our friends at Deep Discount, who bring us to you each week as well. So on the show today, we John and I will do a little catching up, and then we'll do a Caught My Eye in our pick from Deep Discount. Take a quick break, do our business birthday, and then we've got a story about poppers, which is so good and quite long. I'm going to post it to our Facebook page, which is branded Focus Group Radio as well. So if you're watching on Wednesday or afterwards, you'll see it on our Facebook page at Focus Group Radio. Quite a long story there for Shop Talk.
Yes. So I think when we get to Shop Talk, first to go back to what now in our 14th, I think if we said now in our 100th year, would anybody even flinch? Now and it's 100th year.
I know it.
So as Tim mentioned in Shop Talk, which will be at the back half of the show, there is this fascinating article on poppers. I think was it Wired or Fast Company? I forget which it came from. And he will post it because we'll be able to touch on some of the highlights. But it was intriguing, and I think that's why you and I both gravitated towards it.
Another thing we didn't come up with.
Well, you and I did we did not excel in chemistry because there were a lot of paragraphs in that article that dealt with patents and regulations, and all they did was change a carbon atom or so. You know what I'm getting at? Like there was something about the formula that changed to make it like acceptable, or they could sell it.
Add water. Just add water.
Chia. It's a chia.
Reminds me, I was making wine one day. You know our friend Kate. You know her, right?
Yeah.
So she decided she had this brilliant idea. We're going to make wine. It's going to be cheaper. Well, of course, hundreds of dollars later, and junk that went down the drain. We had we were going to make wine, and you had to sterilize the bottles or whatever. Mm-hmm. And so we didn't have anything to sterilize.
Dishwasher has doesn't your dishwasher have that super hot setting for sterilization because of the baby stuff?
There were these huge, I think they're called carabiners, or I forget what the name of them is. These huge glass vat things.
That's what it was going to ferment
in. Put them in a dishwasher.
Okay.
So she said, well, we'll just use vodka. I said, I don't think. So we dumped all this vodka in these huge bottles to swish them out. Of course, the wine was horrible. But, it was one of those things. So, no, chemistry was not any of our forte, I guess.
Not mine. We had this. Did we have the same high school teacher?
Nemicolo.
Yeah, Mr. Nemicolo.
Speech impediment. So who knew what you were doing anyway? Do you remember you had that speech impediment, right?
Yeah, I do. I remember cheating in that class. I'll say that.
How did you cheat?
Well, I used to have a TI-30. So that was one of those calculators that had a built-in memory. And I would plug in an answer and pass it to usually Brian behind me or John, another classmate, and they would plug in. So there was this, only could hold one number. So you had to...
Well, you did that for me in algebra. You cheated. Or was it algebra you and I had, and you would get the number in, and then say that the answer would be 3.4, yeah. And you would hand it to me, and then I would just make up math to get the 3.4. And I remember being called up, and who was the one you used to make fun of, Mr. With the pocket square and the whole deal?
I did him in the teacher fashion show, right?
And again, Borger.
Carl Borger.
Yeah. Right. You have the right answer. But the math doesn't. The principles just don't seem to work to get there. Could you walk me through it? And I would come with this convoluted. When you think about it now, it was tried to be very convincing. You divide it here. Whatever I did to get the 3.4, it made no sense at all. But I was trying to get to your number, 3.4.
I think they knew. They probably went to the teacher's lounge and was like, okay, Bennett and Nash. And your partner in that class was Dana, and mine was Carol's. And actually, you took Dana to the prom, and I took Carol to the prom, remember? Because that was our senior year of high school. That was also, I think, Tim, we've talked about this on the show before. That's also one day Tim's like, we're gonna have fun in class, and we decided to sing O Tannenbaum because it was near Christmas time. And Tim wrapped me in a string of white lights, and I stood in front of the class with my arms out, and I was plugged in. And Carl Borger comes in for class, walks right by me, just walk right by, sit down. Okay, everybody, open up your books today. And we're all
you were plugged in. We were going to sing. Our thought was, if we wasted as much time up front, there would be no time to do a quiz. Remember,
exactly,
we all were trying to figure out how to waste time up front, because then it would, or get him off track.
Yeah.
I mean, when you think about it now, I mean, we've spent all this time conniving about how we were going to deflect time from a quiz rather than studying for the quiz. We would come up with these harebrained ideas of how we were going to get out of a quiz.
Yeah, but you know what? A for ingenuity. A plus for ingenuity, right?
Hey, sit down, Nash. Sit down, Nash.
Just like in passing, sit down, unplug yourself and sit down. And I dragged and I crunched the lights as I sit down. Some of the bulbs broke. My fat ass hit the chair.
And then the one time, this was horrible, but the one time, the one girl, we won't say her name, but the yearbooks had come out, and you're going through, and he's trying to start class, and you're like, oh my God, she was even ugly as a baby. And they're going, because we had to have our baby pictures in there, and you're going through, and then finally he's like, does someone have a yearbook? And then he joined in with us to look at the pictures. At that point, he was like, I might as well join you.
And he laughed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, as I've said before, my mom taught in the district, and she heard from the teachers at the high school that we were loved students. We were one of the favorite classes that graduated, but we were definitely.
I love how your mom says that you kids were loved.
Yeah, we were loved. we were definitely a handful, and she said that the good thing is that all the stuff you did was harmless. It was just, as you said, ways of getting out of things. Do I have to take this class? Do I have to take that test? And we were very inventive in that way. Like the time we went to McDonald's, and my mom walks right by, like, just looks, okay. That was the birthday cake on fire thing. Yeah, that was a whole.
And I still, to this day, as clear as a bell. You and I sitting there. Your mother was on a mission to go to the car
Hallmark store. Yeah, exactly.
But I remember her walking by. She stops dead in her tracks. She looks at you. She looks at me. She looks at you. She shakes her head and just keeps going.
Walking. She remembers that very well, by the way.
I don't even want to know. How did you two finagle
a McDonald's break during school? Yeah. Okay.
So anyway, what caught your eye this week, Mr. Nash?
What caught your eye? Here's what Tim and John found.
All right, mine is it comes to us from The Guardian, which is a UK paper, so this is a British story. And basically, it's about a man who decided at 60 that he was going to be a art school model, like a life model. The headline reads, "A new start after 60. I retreated into myself, then I became a life model at 64." Anybody who's taken life drawing classes.
There's hope, John, for us.
Well, anybody who's taken life drawing knows that you usually work off a model. And there's nothing sexual about it. There was one male model that I particularly liked. But they come in, they're usually hanging out in the class, and then suddenly they take their clothes off and stand up on the dais to be drawn, right? So this gentleman, Terry Aston, says, "I've always been at ease with my body." And he said that at 71, holding a pose for 2 hours hurts. He begins with a rear view, then works his way around. I thought that was funny. The author did that. Basically, though, life modeling is an unusual pursuit to adopt after retirement. So why did he do it? He said, "I wanted to see myself as other people see me." He has confronted his own head and body in the round at a sculpture class and seen his naked torso stretched out of proportion and charcoaled onto crumpled paper. No doubt these are novel perspectives, but surely Aston took up modeling hoping for something in himself to emerge from all these variations. And then he says, to answer that question, he goes, "You are, well, literally stripped bare in person as well as in body." After he and his wife divorced in 2013, Aston started to draw. And I related to this one. He said, "I took full responsibility for my divorce," he said, "nihilistic behavior. I was in a dark place. His son, Tom, had sadly died by suicide a few years earlier, so I'm sure that contributed to some of the marital issues. While Aston was in digs, meaning down in the dumps, waiting for the divorce to go through, he had a period of, self-narrative and contemplation. He picked up a pencil and began to explore his feelings more deeply. So he wanted to draw. But there was a problem. He said, being the person I am, I wanted to go from zero to Caravaggio. Caravaggio is a really famous, beautiful artist who primarily sketched in 10 minutes. He would get home pissed off. Now, I related to this as someone who was always trying to draw better. One day, Aston got chatting to the life model after class and applied to the Register of Artists' Models. As a former managing director of a medical equipment company, he knew how to throw a website together, and he began selling his services as a model to classes all around Oxfordshire, where he lives. On his busiest days, he has 3 bookings. It's not for the faint-hearted. You really get examined in detail, and he is not kidding about that. I have often wondered about, how this all works. He said at its worst, modeling is a bit of vanity. At its best, it is a form of self-recovery, especially since he views his behavior before his divorce as a form of self-harm. And maybe the clues to his this line is experience on the other side of the easel. So now he's very comfortable being, being an art model, and I don't know how he does it, frankly, but he kind of rediscovered himself again. In the sense that he's at peace with himself, and he achieves this by being a life model. Does
it say what he gets paid?
No, it did not say. Usually, it's not much money. I think I remember once being told it was like maybe $40 or $50 a class for the life model. So let's say
he did 3 bookings, he'd get $120 a day.
Yeah, maybe a little higher, but let's just say 100, right? Let's say he did that 5 days a week. That's fine. I mean, it's not exactly what I would call easy work, because you get into a pose, and you usually work out the poses with the instructor prior to class, because he wants certain things for the students to learn.
Did they show his unit?
That not in the article, but he would be completely naked. In fact, just as my little life drawing story. So I took a class to kind of get reinvigorated. I think I was 2 or 3 years out of college. A mentor of mine recommended I take a life drawing class. So it was down in the new school. One night I show up, and I had a nice group of students. I have a big pad of paper, and I get set up, and the model turned out to be this extremely handsome Latin guy who gets on the box, and he just stands there, and he's like right in front of me, and the professor says, "Okay, begin drawing." He had this really deep voice, goes, "Draw." And I'm just holding the thing in the air, and he comes to me, and he's like, "You got to start somewhere." And I said, "I'm studying the figure." And he goes, "I can see." It ended up being, he did one, that artist, that model did one where he laid down, like it was like it was a, what do they call that? Foreshortening. It's very hard in perspective. Like, you have to really understand the body to do this. So he was laying away from me, and I really concentrated on that drawing. It was one of the best drawings I've ever done. And
where's that drawing now? Is it?
I have it. I still have it. It's up in the attic.
Oh, please show.
I should get it and photograph it or scan it. And I remember the instructor saying, this is one of your best, and it's because you like the subject matter, with a smile, with a little twinkle in his eye. He knew what was going on.
Well, that instructor saw you, right?
Yeah, right through me, yeah.
I never knew you did that. That's funny. Now, I learned something new today.
Life drawing, yeah.
I've never done a life drawing class. I've never done a drawing.
It's liberating. It's fun, and the cool thing about it is you clearly are around other students and individuals, in my case, other adults who picked it up very quickly and had a good eye for it. And you then you learn, the more you do it, the better you get. It's one of those things. Wasn't that the 10,000 hour thing? You get better at everything after 10,000 hours. So if I put another 9,500 hours in, I could maybe be Caravaggio, but I don't know. I think there's innate talent. It's like when I did animation. I can animate, and I think I understand it very well, and I get it. But in my classes, I clearly saw individuals who were going to not only exceed, but probably succeed in the industry,
Well, that's the thing. There's some people that could just draw
do it,
naturally.
yeah. And that's their talent, yeah.
Huh, well, that's a good one. I like that one. But I do agree with you. I think it'd be very difficult to maintain a pose, particularly if somebody needs to rely on you to be in that particular pose.
You have, and it's 20, 25 minutes. Yeah. It's and you just boom, and then they move to the next one. Sometimes they used to do this thing called It was like rapid fire drawing. Like the model would hold a pose for 30 seconds. The teacher had a stopwatch. She's like, change, and you had to flip the paper, and you were doing something called line of action. You were trying to figure out where's the forces on the body and stuff. So there you go. I thought it was kind of cool that this guy decided to do this, at such an age.
Just as a quick sidebar, our friend Rosie.
Yeah.
Her father decided to take one of these classes with one of the daughters, one of 12 kids, 10 kids. And he talked about how it was so funny. He the huge pads you draw on.
Yeah.
Well, the figure he did of the life drawing, the person was like an inch big. He only made it an inch big. And I guess the professor went crazy. Everybody laughing. But so he's like, I'll do this, and he draws it real tiny. So
Tiny.
I just thought it was brilliant. So anyway, my story. This also came from. Well, it happened in the U.S., but it was written up or picked up initially out of a British paper. The headline is "Man Shames Restaurant by Weighing Steak at the Table to Prove It Was Underweight."
Oh my God!
So
what do you know? Like an 8-ounce or whatever he asked for, like a 16-ounce porterhouse or.
So this customer was out for his birthday. Is Antonio Chacon or something? Chacon. He was at the Texas Roadhouse. Of course, not the place I'd go for a steak, but that's where he was. And,
not the place I'd go for a steak. Okay.
Well, you're going to complain about it at the Texas Roadhouse, like going to McDonald's and saying it's, I asked for medium well, or, medium rare. So he's at the Texas Roadhouse in Pueblo, Colorado. He said he ordered his favorite meal, which is ribs and steak with fries and mashed potato. And he usually gets a 6-ounce steak. But he said when he got there, when the dish came to the table, it looked like the children's meal. So he says he's been going to this restaurant a long time, and he knows what this meal should look like. And he's 22 years old. He was there celebrating his birthday. He said he was unemployed, and which I don't know why that had to do with anything. But it says unemployed Antonio says he then ran out to his car, and after he asked his father, because he was with his family, and brought back a weighing scale and placed it on the table. The waiter looked shocked. So they said he had complained to the waiter and said that I think you gave me the children's size instead of the adult size meal. The waiter said, no, this is what you got. He said, no, it's my birthday. We're here. I always order this all the time. This is a special occasion for my birthday. He said, Antonio on the way out said he told the manager and the waiter, I have a scale in the car. I ordered a 6-ounce. I'm going to go get it. And his father encouraged him. So Antonio's father encouraged him to go get the scale. He said he ran out to the car. Now, who has a scale in the car? I don't know.
And the fact that the father's encouraging him as well, like, you show these folks how much that steak weighs.
Right. So he says, I grabbed the scale. I did ask permission. I made sure that it was okay with the manager. He came back. He said he wasn't disrespectful or anything. The manager came over, and the waiter was there as well. He said he had a piece of paper he put on the scale. Again, why that meant anything. So they put the steak on the scale, and the steak weighed 3.6 ounces. The waiter said, oh, oh my. And they were all surprised. And then the manager said, well, things do shrink. Meat does shrink when you cook it. You lose a little weight.
Mm-hmm.
And so they called the chef out. And then people said, yes, well, things will shrink when you cook them. It shouldn't shrink from 6 ounces down to 3.6. So they did decide to give him a discount, and they did cook him a new meal. Now, I was wondering about that myself, because you order a 6-ounce filet or 8-ounce filet, whatever you do. I guess I didn't think about how much it would shrink. Apparently, Antonio knows his meat. I don't know how much.
He knows his
do you ever
meat,
think about how much that when you order a piece of meat when you're out,
Never crosses my mind. In fact, it's the opposite. Sometimes you'll see something on a menu like a T-bone or something, and this massive thing comes out. I wouldn't even dream of wondering how much it weighed. I'm sure I'm probably, because of the scale of it, convinced it's the right thing. But this is interesting.
So the waiter says, damn, you're right. And they all had a little laugh about it. But anyway, he decided to go and shame the restaurant. And he posted this on social media. Of course, he had 16,000 reactions and 92,000 shares. There's been no comment from the Texas Roadhouse. But a number of people then, of course, went right down the rabbit hole, asked why he had a scale.
Mm-hmm.
Some people said it was a drug scale. Mm. What was he doing with a drug scale? He had a drug scale.
How they get drugs there? Okay, yeah.
Then someone said it was a cocaine scale. He said it wasn't a cocaine scale. My brother had the salt shaker at the table and was playing with the salt shaker, so that's why there was white stuff on the scale, because they showed the scale, and I guess it had white powder or something on it. He said that was salt from the salt shaker. I didn't have it. Wasn't a cocaine scale or a meth scale or something. So, and then the third person said that it was a very Karen thing to do. You know, they call everybody Karen that does these kind of things where they call out and get upset. So anyway, I just thought it was interesting. It reminded me of a time my friend Danielle, you know, Bruce and Danielle, who is no longer with us, but he ran a number of restaurants, and we were out one time, and I ordered a bowl of soup. He said, "Don't ever order the bowl of soup." And I said, "Why?" He says, "Because you're getting ripped off." So the bowl of soup was $9. The cup of soup was $5. So the bowl of soup came to the table because I like soup. You know, I like soup.
Oh, I love soup. Yeah.
So the bowl of soup comes to the table, and he says, "Don't take it. Don't eat it. Don't eat it yet." So he says to the server, he said, "Could you please bring me? Can you please? How big is the cup of soup?" He says, "I'm not sure. Don't bring me a cup of soup, but could you bring me the cup that the soup comes in for the cup of soup?" So the server goes, and she comes back with the cup. So Danielle takes my bowl, and he pours it into the cup, and it fits perfectly into the cup. He says, "See, you paid $9 because the bowl is big
wider,
but shallow."
Mm-hmm.
And the cup, he said, "So the cup of soup is the same size as the bowl. You're just paying $4 more for the bowl." So the server runs and gets the manager and whatever, causes this big kerfuffle. And, oh, no. Then they accuse the server of bringing out the wrong bowl for the small. And we're looking at the other table. She didn't bring the wrong bowl out, but they got caught.
Yeah.
And so to this day, I won't ever order a bowl of soup anymore. I always
That
order
is true. Whenever I've been out with you, it's a cup. And I always thought that was just something you did as a appetizer-y thing. Cup of soup,
I'm not
right?
I'm not saying all restaurants do that, but I learned a lesson. I mean, he poured. I couldn't believe it. He poured it. He took the big bowl, huge. He poured it right into the cup. I said, He goes, "Oh yeah, it's an old restaurant trick."
Wow.
I was like, "Oh, okay." So anyway, there you go. Hey, we want to, as many of you know, Deep Discounts, friends of ours here on the Focus Group. And they've been with us for quite a while. If you head over to focusgroupradio.com and click on the Deep Discount logo, you can start shopping away. Right now, they've got a sale going on. And as I try to pull up my
Cult films, Tim.
My notes here, John. Yes, John, you could tell us what the film is. Is it Cult Film Week?
It's a cult film sale. There's always great sales at Deep Discount, and these are cult films. And so we're going to get Tim's pick in a minute, which I love.
There it is. Okay.
Yeah,
I
so
finally got my notes up.
What I ordered you go to focusgroupradio.com, click on the Deep Discount logo, which is a shark, Sharky the Shark, and it will get you here to Deep Discount, and you can begin shopping away. And it's so much more than movies. It's toys and games and books and audio. But we're looking at movies today, and it's the Cult Film Special or sale. And I found in the section something called Cinematic Titanic, the complete collection. I have never heard of this before, and I'm like, what is this? So here's the description, and if you're a fan of this particular show called Mystery Science Theater 3000, then you're going to love the movie. So it's 5 of the original cast members and writers of MST3K, which is short for Mystery Science Theater 3000, launched Cinematic Titanic. That includes Joel Hodgson, Trace Beaulieu, J. Elvis Weinstein, Mary Jo Pale, and Frank Conniff, and those are all alumni of MST3K. They launched Cinematic Titanic, a leaner, hungrier leap into razor-sharp comedy built on the back of cheesy movies. And you know the whole format for MST3K, they would be the silhouettes of the puppets watching the movie,
right.
Making nasty comments for the next 6 years. They toured the country with a critically acclaimed live show and left millions of delighted fans in their wake. This set collects all 12 movies riffed on by the Cinematic Titanic team, combining all their published mayhem from the live shows to their direct-to-video releases. So if you're an MST3K lover, this is definitely something that you're going to want to check out, and it's called Cinematic Titanic. What did you pick out of Cult?
So I believe this might be on that collection. So this was I picked for you. There was another movie I picked, which is going to be a surprise. It's on back order, so I'm not even going to tell you what it is. But so if there is a movie on back order at Deep Discount, you just have to give them your email, and they'll let you know when it arrives. And then I will share it with you. I also want to, before we get into it, I wanted to thank. We've got a number of those discs. We mentioned the I Love Lucy or Lucille Ball's specials
Lucy
from the 70s.
Calls the President.
So they came in, and so there's a stack of those that have come in from the movie house, and so we'll be able to go through those. I think you probably have some coming to you as well. So maybe we'll share those next week.
Maybe we'll watch and give them away too.
Yeah, yeah. So the one I picked was just for you, John. It's a Yuletide science fiction fantasy. I don't know if you've ever seen this. It's a cult classic now, and it did get some additional play because it was on Mystery Science
Theater 3000
in the 90s. Have you ever seen Santa Claus Conquers the Martians?
No, and I just enlarged. If you're watching video, I enlarged the cover of the. There's a robot. There's Martians. There's Santa. Like this is just everything, right?
It's only 81 minutes long. Came out in 1964. Has Pia Zadora in it. Remember that old mess?
Yeah.
So this is a fully restored edition. And the Martians are irked that their children spend too much time watching TV shows from Earth. And they sing the praises of Santa Claus. So they decide to trek to the planet, and they're going to capture Mr. Claus. So the Martians have come to Earth. They're going to capture Mr. Claus. During their mission, they also abduct 2 children. And the children lead them to the North Pole. And the Martians then take all 3 Earthlings back to Mars. And what ends up happening is, of course, they then spread Christmas cheer to Mars.
Naturally, right?
So they said this movie took on some newfound fame in the 90s after being featured on Mystery Science Theater 3000. It's become a holiday staple at Comedy Central since 1991 now. But it's been riffed on Cinematic Titanic, so the one that you recommended, John.
Oh my God. Now, I got to tell everybody, this is not planned. I know that you pick Santa Claus Conquers the Martians, and I totally at random picked Cinematic Titanic. I can't believe they're tied together like this, right?
Yes. Well, they said the film marks the very first documented appearance of Mrs. Claus in a motion picture 3 weeks before Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. They said the movie also regularly appears on the list of worst movies ever made. It's regularly featured at the bottom 100 list of movies made, and was featured in an episode of the Cannes Film Festival instead of Cannes. Anyway, it goes on and on. So that there's it. I watched a clip of it. It is so bad it's good, and we now have to add it to our repertoire, John. I can't believe neither of us have seen it. So be sure you get Santa Claus Conquers the Martians, or you can get that as well as John's pick as well, which includes this movie, I believe.
Cinematic Titanic. Okay, and excellent choice, Tim. Excellent choice. And I'm so glad that all this stuff tied together. The release this week is a movie starring Angelina Jolie called Those Who Wish Me Dead. I had remember reading about this when it came out. She plays a Montana smoke jumper, so like someone that goes into these horrible forest fires and like starts prepping the ground or getting ready for other firefighters to come in. She was resigned to lookout duty and the inability to forgive herself. I guess there was an accident that she blames herself for previously. A dangerous chance for redemption might be at hand when she comes upon a fleeing boy, Finn Little, whose mob accountant father was just silenced by a pair of ruthless hitmen, and they're out to tie off all loose ends. So this is like a, action thriller movie, and it's called Those Who Wish Me Dead, and it stars Angelina Jolie, and it comes to us from Warner Home Video. So let's just do a quick recap. It's the cult classic film sale here at Deep Discount. Go to Deep Discount, or get there by going to focusgroupradio.com, clicking on the Deep Discount logo. Start your shopping. We get some credit for it. We like that. I chose Cinematic Titanic, which is from the alumni of MST3K, Mystery Science Theater 3000. Tim chose Santa Claus Conquers the Martians, which also ties in to Cinematic Titanic and MST3K in a fun way. It's like the worst movie ever made, but so bad it's good. And now we're going to get it 1664 on Blu-ray, if you can believe it. And the release this week is Those Who Wish Me Dead, and that stars Angelina Jolie. Excellent job, Mr. Bennett. I love when we psychically cross like that. So we're going to take a super quick break. When we return, on the other side, we have a business birthday and an interesting article on puppers. So stay with us.
You're listening to The Focus Group with Tim and John. Learn more at focusgroupradio.com. Now back to the focus group with Tim and John. Available pretty much everywhere.
Hey, welcome back to the focus group. Tim Bennett here as always. Welcome back to the show. We've got our business birthday. I was going to say something, but I have to be careful because we got dinged last week for a bunch of things. So our show wasn't, that Google took it down again. So
they're probably going to have a field day with this
event,
episode.
Because we mentioned the event. I was just going to say, Darwinism, these morons that didn't get the shot. But anyway, I guess we can't even go into anything. Can't say a thing anymore, John.
Oh, you can. You just have to be a certain someone to say it and get away with it, right?
Yeah. So anyway, we've got our business birthday, and then we've got a shop talk, as John teased before a break. So without further ado, Mr. Nash, our business birthday.
Everyone does celebrity birthday greetings, but the Focus Group is the only show in the universe that celebrates business birthdays.
Born today, August 4th, in 1902, Lloyd Alva Anderson. And he was known as the founder, or one of the co-founders of REI. And I say one of the co-founders because he founded it with his wife, Mary Gertrude Anderson. But founded REI in 1938. And they're living at their house in Seattle, the Capitol Hill area, at the kitchen table. And he was an avid climber and mountaineer. And what used to happen is he would try to find great mountain climbing gear and could never find it. So he used to write to all these companies in Europe, and particularly there were some companies in Austria and a few places in Switzerland, or some of these smaller places that would specialize in very high-tech engineering gear. And he would find it, and then he would relay what this sort of gear was to his friends in the Seattle area, other climbers. And so he would purchase more of it, and then he would share it with his friends, and then they would buy some. So he started this cooperative or collective. And so people who are familiar with REI know that it's set up as a cooperative. Mm-hmm. So you share in the profits and share in the kind of the club of being an REI. And so he and his wife set it up. He's card number 1, and she is card number 2. And so they would even as the company grew, would even laugh when they would go in the store many years later and he would show his card. He loved showing his card to number 1 when people didn't recognize him, because having a low number was certainly a status symbol. So he said they founded REI out of frustration, and because he could never find good gear. So as I said, when they would just write to, it stands for Recreational Equipment Incorporated. It's one of the nation's largest retail cooperatives, about 621 million a year business, give or take each year, and still based in Seattle. And they used to use the attic. They used the whole house. They took over the whole house. They said he was still very much he was encouraged to not have it be a cooperative anymore. And he said he would never do that because he didn't want to take advantage of his friends. And he said he never wanted to make money off his friends. So he always kept it as a cooperative. So he said that, even in the first year, he made everybody pay $1 to join. And then at the end of the year, they would share in whatever profits had come through. His wife did everything from stitching tents to spray painting them or spraying them to waterproof them. So the first year they had 23 members. And the second year they had 82 members. Then they divided their dividends, and it grew into today they have 1.7 million members.
Wow. Are you a member?
Were you? I used to be. I'm not. Were you?
I used to be as well.
I used to be a member,
and
I'm not.
It was not. It's one of those funny things where, for me, like it was cycling, right? So they had a good selection, but I could get what I actually wanted brand-wise from some other things. So it wasn't. So I just let it lapse after a while because I wasn't there all the time. But I think a lot of people who are hiking and certain athletic things or outdoor things, it really makes sense.
Yeah, I was the same way. I think if there was a specific thing, particularly if you were a camper or you're a hiker, and you was cycling, you could only probably go so far with it. And it was the same with me. I would go for a shoe or for some sort of rowing pants or waterproof stuff, but it could only take you so far. And then I was the same way as you. I kind of let it lapse. But I wonder though if they still kept you in the system. Who knows? But so they said in the evenings he would then make deliveries to people, and they just grew the business. And they were asked if they would take it and make it go into a real quote unquote wholesale retail company. And he just said he would not. He always wanted to keep it as a cooperative. And so it's still in existence today, still based out in the Seattle area. And he said he is a co-op. It ought to stay that way. I never thought I should make money off my friends. And he relinquished control in the 70s. He stopped being president in 1971, but he continued to buy things from the store. And they said he was often amused by employees who failed to recognize him, but would always laugh at his number as he would go in there and put his card down as number one. He and his wife were inducted into the National Cooperative Business Association Hall of Fame in '93 for their work for establishing REI. He enjoyed traveling the world, and he enjoyed lawn bowling. In fact, when he died at 98, his wife, they had to wait quite a while to announce his death because his wife was traveling in some remote area, and they wanted to make sure she found out first before they announced it to the public. But so Lloyd Anderson, founder of REI, born August 4th, 1902.
Good one. And if you were watching the video, quite a striking young man. Quite a striking young man. I think he looked.
Well,
good.
they said that the deal with the climbers, and they said it was such a specialized sport, and he did all kinds of climbing and wrote books on climbing and diaries and did all these different climbs around the Pacific Northwest and Canada. Is that it was such a community that the store became this gathering place where people would talk, probably much similar to you with cycling folks or people I knew from rowing. People would gather. Hey, what are you doing? And it was a very safe place for people to get together and have common interests and
exchange knowledge.
So it was really, really quite a collective and cooperative. So, and you do know even to this day, I think when you go to an REI store, if you've never been in one or if you do go in one, it does have a very different vibe.
It does, yeah.
Yeah,
it's
even the
cool.
people who work there. So hey, John had found this story. I had seen it as well. I did not read it. And then when John had found the story and said, hey, we should do this for Shop Talk, I thought this is funny because I saw this too and I kind of just glanced over it. Probably because it was too long. I have the attention span of a gnat lately. So the headline is, where do poppers come from? And I laughed because I'm thinking, well, they come from the store. But so this is a whole story about. Is it going to be a book or a movie? I was trying to figure out. Somebody's writing a book. I guess he's a Brit. And he's going to write a book about the history of poppers, and it's very much anyone who doesn't know. But they said that the poppers is very much I guess for lack of a better word, a gay sex drug.
Yeah.
Would that be the right way of saying it?
That's what the author says. And he spent a great deal of time trying to track down the company and the individual who manufactures this. And it took him weeks to figure out all the different trademark stuff. And one of the most popular brands, I think, is Rush. It's right. And it says on the bottle, nail polish remover, by the way, really small type. But he went to great lengths to figure out who, and he finally kind of roots down. And so the article comes from BuzzFeed, by the way, and Tim's going to probably post this to our Facebook page. So it's a cultural story, but it's also an interesting business and regulatory story because it's a chemical compound that, they keep changing ever so slightly. And at the beginning of the show, we joked about this. They'll change a carbon molecule or they'll change something else. And then that sufficiently changes the formulation enough to fall back into the zone where they can sell it as something. And they're selling it as for a while it was called, you would clean you'd claim you were buying it to clean the head of the cassette deck.
Video head
cleaner. That's right. And or nail polish remover. But a lot of mystique and a lot of mystery around poppers. A lot of most gay men are indoctrinated to them. Either they hear about them from friends or they've tried them. And at its core, what it does is when you inhale or sniff the vapor from the bottle, It constricts the blood vessels, and it sort of gives you a feeling that you might get from, if I read this correctly, Tim, nitrous oxide sort of does the same thing, like if you're having a dental thing done. So it's
like a whippet?
Yeah, so yeah, exactly. So it's like a momentary high, and because of the way it deals with the blood vessels, it does give you this kind of this physical euphoria, and it doesn't last for a long time. Interestingly, in the article, they talk about the fact that people with heart conditions or with blood pressure issues, or who may be taking medication for ED, for example, need to be a little bit careful because it does deal with blood pressure and all that stuff. But one of the kernels that I took out of this was there is a guy in Pennsylvania who I think owns the trademark and has been manufacturing some of these things for years, especially Rush. His family, very few people knew what he did for a living. When his daughter found out, she's like, well, what are you doing? He's like, well, this puts you through college. And then the one that I loved was the fact that he basically said, and he says repeatedly through the article, no matter what you think you're buying, it's all exactly the same formula. They could package it any way they want, but it's all the same formula.
Yeah, I thought that was funny too. And the other thing I thought was interesting. So when the writer tries to find out about, track down who's making this, he says, I started with the web address listed on the bottle of Rush with its red and yellow lightning bolt packaging. It's by far the most recognizable brand. The bare bones website belonging to a company called Pac West Distributing complained of fake and dangerous imports from China masquerading as a real thing. They just list one email address for customers, and then there's a disclaimer on there. No other inquiries will be answered. Sorry, the site warned. All emails will be ignored. So even if you just sent something there, they're not going to let you try to track them down. As they were trying to figure out, as John says, how you make this, and they locate this guy in Pennsylvania, and he says he's straight. He doesn't use it. I never used it either because A, I don't like that lightheaded feeling, and B, because of my blood pressure. I remember my friend Chris. A lot of guys used to do it on the dance floor.
That's what they talk about in here too.
And my friend Chris, when he knew I had high blood pressure, he's like, "You can't do this stuff." And I was like, "Oh, what is it? What is it?" I remember guys used to use it. I don't know if did you know guys who did it on the dance floor?
Oh, sure. And that's where I think I first even smelt it was a dance floor, and people would pass the bottle around, and yeah, so it was a party drug, and it wasn't just for gay men. A lot of straight people used to use it in the exact same way on the dance floor, right?
Right. Yeah, I guess it made you lightheaded or euphoric or happy or
well,
something.
There was a French chemist that actually described in the article, he said, as the nitrates vaporize and their scent is inhaled, the human body converts the chemicals to nitric oxide, which causes the blood vessels to relax and expand, leading to a drop in blood pressure. It will cause you to get lightheaded, hence the drop in blood pressure, but they also have psychoactive properties to some extent. That's what people are using them for recreationally. And he said this is nothing new. One of the inventors said when he was in college in the 70s, people were using poppers as party drugs all the time. Straight, gay, didn't matter. It was a party drug.
I'm curious as to where in Pennsylvania he is. He's got to be in the suburbs of
They
Philadelphia.
did not say, did they? He purposely kept all that information out of there, right?
Don't you think, though, when he says, because they met off a train in Philly, they said it was a ritzy suburb.
Oh, it has to be something. One of the totally, Tim. Yeah.
But what I was trying to figure out is how he got because these originally were, I guess the genesis of the brand was out in California, right? San Francisco.
Correct.
And however he got it to be made, or it got moved out to Pennsylvania, I guess he must have taken control of it. That's what I was trying to figure out in the story.
Convoluted. That's why we're going to recommend you read the story. And Tim was saying it's long. It is long. It's a very well researched journalistic piece. But there were a number of players in the early 70s or late 60s, and then someone lost the patent, or someone went bankrupt,
right,
or someone passed away, and it got picked up. A lot of legal issues, and this industry is always like one step ahead of the regulatory crowd. And it's the kind of, and the guy that they profile, who is very funny, I thought, in the piece, he said to his daughter one day, it's the kind of crime you don't go to jail for, they slap you on your hand, a regulatory crime, right? So it was just a very fascinating, because it's so ubiquitous, right? And all the different, and as I said, the part that really struck me the most was no matter what you think you're buying, the Super Rush, whatever, It's all the same stuff.
Yeah, I do love it because the one thing everybody has to realize in the end, I hate to break the news to them, said Farr, but every single bottle's exactly the same thing. It's been that way since time and eternity. He said one of them could be glitzy, one of them could be matte finish, one of them could say ultra, one of them could say supreme. It's all the same stuff, which I thought brilliant marketing. Again, we were laughing about marketing, and
and also legally,
and he said, and people swore, "Oh no, this one's stronger."
Yeah, yes, and he'd be okay if you think it's stronger, right? But it's all the same formula, and he basically also does not ever vary from saying that it's nail polish remover. He knows that people use it for different things, but it's nail polish remover, and I believe he does that from a legal point of view. Like because if he sat down and had to be deposed or something, well, how are you selling this? Nail polish remover. You ask any vendor I talk to, they're buying a box of nail polish remover.
Got a nail polish remover?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess. Well, it says here he worries about the ramifications of the story as well as the FDA's recent statements about poppers might mean the end of his business. But he says, if I knew I was hurting people, I wouldn't be in the business. So He doesn't think he's hurting anybody. I guess I don't know anybody who's. You can't get addicted to it, can you?
No, it's non-addictive. It's non-addictive. It's totally,
right.
And a random paragraph that I'm scrolling by. One of the employees told me he first began working for this businessman making dildos. So there's stuff going on. But yeah, it's a well done article, and when the journalist finally did track down the person probably making all of them right now, or all the different lines, this businessman, as Tim just said, the guy was like, well, I'm going to give you the story, I'm going to give you interviews, but you can't show the exterior of the building. He was specific about not giving his locale away, although, as Tim pointed out, there's just so many places you can go by train in the Philly area, so that you could probably, like, by process of elimination, begin to figure it out. But fascinating business. Kind of like, Tim, remember months and months ago we reviewed a movie. It was about that Circus of Books out in Los Angeles.
Right.
A straight Jewish couple owned this gay bookshop that was everything to everybody in the gay community. The owner was kind of like the mother to some of these guys. She employed these people, and it was during the height of HIV/AIDS. So I love these stories that are tangential or, within the community. But and this little bottle that we've seen around in stores and, head shops and things like that. So funny.
Yeah, no, it's an interesting story. I because it's one of those things that somebody made it, and I guess you never thought about it, or you never did think about where it came from, and it's probably cost nothing to make.
That's one thing they didn't say, but I have a suspicion that you are very accurate. That maybe it costs a couple of cents, right?
Because I don't even know what a bottle costs.
Neither do I. No, I have no idea. And the fact that they charge premium prices for labeling it differently, even though it's the same formula, is hysterical to me, right? It reminds me of going to, there's some of so you have all these different vodkas like that come in plastic bottles these days, like Popov is one of them. I swear it probably comes off the line of some much bigger, like Smirnoff or some, what I mean? They just shut the line down, change the plastic bottle, and boom, it's something different, right?
Yeah, no, I don't. So here we go. So a bottle of head cleaner, it's about $9.
$9. Okay. So what do you think? 5 cents to manufacture? $1 at the most?
Yeah, maybe that.
And if it's $9, what's retail? Usually 50% markup. So the wholesale's $4.50. Let's just say it's $4.50, right? So maybe if you make it for a quarter, boy, you're making some dough, right?
I wonder if we can, but I wonder if we can make some. I guess we can't. Well, we can't.
You started the show by talking about this disastrous wine making, and you're going to make something that could,
You and I need something. I want to go to bed and still have dollar bills stuffed underneath the pillow. We need a residual.
We need an annuity. That's what you need. An
annuity, right? Don't you think?
An annuity.
Yeah, here they are here. So here's the funny thing. So they are, oh wow, you get a whole pallet for $145. So you can get the $8.99, yeah, all different prices.
And now we all know
$23.99.
I think that if there's any learning that comes out of this article, there's a couple of them. But one bullet point is, whatever you think, it's all the same formula, which, always made me wonder about like regular gas, premium gas, the same thing,
Well, how do they know, right? I never put in the expensive gas. No. Although some people do swear that if you put in the one with less lead or whatever, that the car is going to run better. But
yeah,
it's a lease.
A and B, didn't we have auto executives who said that when they built these engines and tested them, they tested them with regular gas, right?
Yeah, well, yeah. I never.
A normally aspirated engine was what I always heard, right?
Yeah, so there you go. Well, Mr. Nash, I'll get you a bottle of Rush.
Thank you.
Always fresh. Keep it in the fridge.
Make sure you buy the most expensive, best quality, top shelf, please.
Never fake it.
All right, folks, we're going to leave it there. We're going to wrap up. Thanks for joining us today. Big thanks to Deep Discount. It's the cult movie sale. Some great titles available there. And Tim and I went over that in our Deep Discount section. So visit deepdiscount.com by going to focusgroupradio.com and clicking on the shark logo, and you can begin your extravaganza, or as we say, we like to go down the rabbit hole. We want to thank you, as always, for being a listener of the Focus Group. Check out TFG Unbuttoned. It's a Tuesday podcast as well, and all things are available at focusgroupradio.com. And one last item, if you want to get in touch with us, letters at focusgroupradio.com. Everybody have a safe week, and we'll see you in the new one.
It's the Focus Group with Tim Bennett and John Nash. Accessible on all platforms. Subscribe, like, and rate us on your platform of choice. Learn more at focusgroupradio.com.
That was a stunning focus group.